Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I've posted a video, 2 weeks. I'm very sorry first of all for that. It's been crazy. I've been sick last week. Maybe you can still hear it. And the week before that it was just really busy that I hadn't had the time to film a video for you guys. So I'm very sorry for that, but now we're back. And in today's video, I'm going to give you some book recommendations if you maybe want to start reading in the new year. I mean, it's already February. It is already February and already March, but I thought, you know what, it's still a good time to make this video and give you guys some recommendations that I think are perfect if you want to start your reading journey. So that's what we're going to do in today's video. And I would say let's get started because we've got a couple of books we have to get through. Okay, so I'm going to divide these books a little bit into categories so it's easier for you guys. So I would say we're going to start with my favorite genre, and that's romance, and we're going to start with the adult romance books. So these are not for young adults. I mean, you could read them, but it kind of depends on how old you are. So yeah. So first up, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite authors in the whole universe, or there are two favorite authors. So yeah. But the first one is Ellie Hazelwood, and I'm not going to choose one of her books. I'm just going to talk about her her as an author in general. She mainly writes romance books, mainly adult romance books. She has one new young adult romance book, and that's Chuck and Mate. But I'm just going to talk about her about like as an author. So Ellie Hazelwood mainly writes STEM romance books. So they're centered in the science department, and I really love her writing style. It's not for everyone, this kind of books, because they really focus on the STEM vibe. I mean, this book and Love on the Brain and Love Theoretically are all three STEM romances, but she also has like Bride, and that's a paranormal romance between a vampire and a werewolf. And she just released another book that's called Deep End, and it's also not a STEM romance, if I'm remembering correctly. I haven't read it yet. And as I just said, she also has one young adult book, and that is called Check and Mate. But it could be read by maybe older readers because it's not that young adult, in my opinion. Because also the characters are like in their 18, they're like 18 and 19, I think. So yeah, but I really like her books. If you like a little bit of a spicy romance and just tension, but also things that are talked about in these books are real problems in the science world, I think that's really interesting to read about. And this is one of my favorite books ever by her. I really love this book. The Love Hypothesis is just so good and so fast paced. I mean, Adam and Olive are one of my favorite book couples of all time. I mean, I want this book injected in my veins. It's so good, and I could read it again and then again and again. So yeah, first author Ellie Hazelwood. Then an author I love, and I've already read most of her books that are out. Maybe not of her older books, but this one, the most of her new books I've read. And that's obviously Emily Henry. She is a queen of the romance, more like literary romance, because her books have so much more than just a romance aspect in it. I mean, you have Beach Read, but you also have Happy Place, Funny Story, You and Me on Vacation, or People We Meet on Vacation. And there is a new book coming out this year in April, which I'm very excited about. But her books, they are romance books, and there is definitely a romance plot in all of her books she writes. But there's so much more. I mean, in Happy Place you have like the friendship. Here you also have grief and all of other things, and a funny story as well. I mean, there's so much more to these books, and that's what I really love about her. They may not be for everyone, but I definitely think you should give her a chance. I personally really love Beach Read, and I will definitely be rereading it someday. And I think if you would want to start with a book, Beach Read or maybe Happy Place or Funny Story are a good place to start. People Meet on Vacation or You and Me Vacation, that has two titles for some reason, is more different from the other books I personally think, but I still love them. So yeah, Emily Henry is just also another author I want to talk about in the whole. So yeah. Then another author I'm actually going to talk about the next books are just the authors. I'm just talking about the authors in general and just picked one specific book by them. So the next author is Ashley Paulson. She also writes romance books, but her romance books are not just your typical romance books, you know? They are paranormal romance books because in this book it's about ghosts, and in the other book, The 7-Year Slip, she goes to her apartment and always go back in time. And then you also have another love story that's also like this kind of romance. So that's her vibe. So if that's your kind of vibe, I definitely recommend reading it. Her writing is also so beautiful. She can write things that you're like, wow, this is so good. And I think it's very accessible and easy to read as well. So if you want to start reading, this is very good genre to read and very good author to read. I only read The Dead Romantics and The 7-Year Slip by her, and I personally love both of them. I mean, this book is about Florence, and she's a ghostwriter for another author, and she can talk to ghosts, and all of a sudden, her new editor is in front of her door. She's like, well, what are you doing here, Betty? So, and a lot of things happen. She discovers things about herself and about her family, and I think it's really beautiful. So, yeah. Then another author I also discovered recently, or yeah, last year, and that is Catherine Center. I have The Bodyguard by her, and I also read The Rom-Commers by her. And she has also more, kind of like Emily Henry. Her books are about romance, but there's so much more going on. I mean, they're very emotional reads. I mean, with this book, I cried at the end, and also with The Rom-Commers, I cried at the end. So know what you're up to if you're reading a Catherine Center book. But this one, I think, is just so interesting because you always see like that the guy is a bodyguard, but in this book, she is a bodyguard of him. But there's just so much more going on than just a physical attraction, and it's more deep and their emotional connection and also their own things that are going on into their lives. I think this is so good, and love both of this her books that I've read. And then I'm not sure about every book if it has closed door, but I know for sure that this author writes kind of closed door books, and that's Sarah Adams. The Match is a closed door romance, so there's no spice in it, and I think the next book in the series is as well. I also read the Rule Book and the Cheat Sheet by her, and I definitely want to read like the When in Rome series by her as well. Her books are just so fast paced. If you want a quick romance book, these books are her books are perfect for you because I mean, if you see how short this book is, it's so fun, and it's maybe very typical kind of rom-com book, but I don't care. That's fun to read about. I mean, I read to escape from reality, and this is exactly what I need. And especially The Match is such a fun concept. I mean, she has epilepsy, and you have her dog who helps her as a service dog. It's so fun and so easy to read. I think these books are also perfect to start with. And Sarah Adams' her writing is also very easy to get into and accessible if you maybe want to start reading and want to start exploring new genres. This is really good for you to start with, I think. Okay, now we're going to the next genre, and that is fantasy, also adult fantasy. I'm going to start with the adult books, and then I'm going to talk about the young adult books. I only have two for this. I think I'm going to look at my computer real quick. Yes, I only have two books for this. The first book, of course, the thing with fantasy is most of the books that are fantasy books are in a series. You definitely have books that are standalones, but I've not read a lot of books that are not in a series, but there definitely are. But I think these are good fantasy books to start with if you want to dip your toes into the fantasy genre. There are a lot of other fantasy books I've read, but I don't think they're personally good to start with, since they're maybe a little bit more complex to get into, especially if it's the first time reading a fantasy book. So yeah, the first book is part of a duology, so it's only two books. I think it was a duology. I could be wrong, but normally it's just duology, and both of the books are out. And that is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciarelli. I just read this year, and I'm obsessed with this book. It's such a fast-paced and interesting fantasy book. The world building is not that hard to understand. The writing style is very easy and fast-paced to read. And I think especially if you're dipping your toes in the fantasy era, the fantasy genre, it's important that the writing style and the world building is not that hard, because fantasy books can be intimidating. I find it as well sometimes. But this book wasn't at all. I mean, it is also not that thick of a book for fantasy books, because a lot of fantasy books are a little more on the thicker, bigger side. So this book is about witch hunters and witches, which is also a very fun concept, I think. So she is a witch and he is a witch hunter, but in this world, the witches are being killed because, yeah, it's not good. They don't want witches in their world. And she is a heartless hunter, the Crimson Mount, and she wants to free all of the other witches they are capturing, but nobody knows she is the Crimson Mount. And then you have Gideon, and Gideon is a witch hunter, and he is chasing the Crimson Mount. The thing is, Rune, she's a witch. She wants to know where the witches are being held, so she needs information from like witch hunters. So she thinks, you know what, I'm going to fake date this guy because he's a witch hunter and he's like the general, so he knows everything. And he is going to fake date her because like he wants to know if maybe she is a Crimson Mount. So they fake dating each other, but they don't know. They are each of them are trying to get information from each other. So that's so fun. I haven't read the next book yet, but I'm very excited to read the next book because it was so fast paced. I read this book in like 2 days, I think. It's so good. So I could definitely recommend reading this. And then the next book is a book I think everyone and their mother already read, but I'm still going to recommend it because I think it's good, and it's good also to start with in the fantasy genre, in my opinion at least. And that is The Fourth Wing, the Appearance series by Rebecca Yarros. So you have 3 books out yet. You have Fourth Wing, you have Iron Flame, and then you have Onyx Storm. So there are 3 books. I think it's going to be a 5-book series, but I could be wrong. So yeah. So this is about dragon riders, also a very fun concept if you ask me. I mean, love dragons. This is so fun. It's also the first book I like for them better than Iron Flame. I haven't read Onyx Storm yet, but I'm excited about it. But I think Four Ring is a very good, fast-paced book as well. It gets you motivated. I mean, you just want to keep reading because you want to know what's happening. There's some kind of mystery in it as well, but also the romance is in there. I mean, I never read like a real fantasy book, and both of these are more like the romance genre, so romance and fantasy mix with each other. But I think if you want to dip your toes into the fantasy genre, and you already like romance, this is a good place to start with. So yeah. Okay, now we're going to like the thrillers, the mysteries. I have 3 books for this. First up, I have A Variety. I don't know if you how do you have to pronounce it. I'm very sorry. By Colleen Hoover. Everyone has their opinion about Colleen Hoover, and they are allowed to. I also have an opinion, but personally, I think this book is good, and it's a good, fun thriller kind of book. I mean, I read this book almost in 1 day, so I was very invested in it. It's kind of creeped me out as well, as it's a very fast-paced book to read. So if you want to try like a thriller, not that thrill, because it's not really thriller, but it is a thriller, you know. So I think it's a good place to start. It's about Lowen, and she is struggling. She's a writer, and she's like kind of struggling, and then she gets the opportunity to ghostwrite for another author. But because she's doing this, she is going to move into the house of this author, and that's Verity. And while she's at the house, she discovers things, and it's kind of getting a little bit creepy. She discovers this manuscript written by this author, Verity, and there's some crazy things in it. So yeah, it is fast paced, and you want to know what's happening. And you have team manuscript, and you have team, I don't know what our name is called. So yeah, very interesting. And then, I mean, this actually about these 2 books are by the same author, so I'm going to talk to it about as an author, and that's Frida McFadden. I've read only 2 books by her, and they are both thriller books, and that's The Boyfriend and The Housemaid. I think it's also a very well-known author already, but I think it's very good to start the thriller genre with. I really started my thriller journey with this author, and I'm definitely reading more books by her because they're so interesting and very fast paced, and page turners. You want to know what's happening with both of the boyfriend and the housemate. I found that I was like binging these books. So if you want to try thrillers, I think these are perfect. Also not that creepy. I mean, I was a little bit creeped out by them, but not that creeped out. It's not that I couldn't sleep, you know? Okay, I think I've had all the adult books. I'm going to quickly look. Yes. So now we're going to talk about young adult books. So first up, I'm going to talk about young adult romance books. When I was making this recommendations list, I thought I read more young adult books than I expected. No, I said it wrong. I read less young adult books than I've expected. I thought I would have read more young adult books. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to start with first a favorite young adult author of mine, and that is Lane Painter. I want to talk about Betting on You and Better Than the Movies. Both of these books are so fun. They're really your typical romance book, especially Better Than the Movies, but Betting on You as well. Her Lynn Painter writing style is just so fun to read and so easy. I mean, Betting on You and Better Than Movies, they're maybe very predictable, but I don't care. That's fun to read about. I mean, this is literally Better Than Movies, and it's this this book is a definition of a rom-com in a book. It's so fun and so fast-paced. If you don't know what it is, there's also a second book, Nothing Like the Movies, but I would only recommend reading it if you really love this book, because it's not like that's really necessary to read that book, you know? But yeah, this book is, they're both fake dating, both of them, and they're both set in like high school. So there's also obviously close door romances. So very good to read if you want like just a fun, quick book in between. Then also a book I think everyone already read or knows of, and that's Jenny Han. I don't have the first book with me because a friend of mine is borrowing it, but that's obviously The Summer I Turned Pretty. You have 3 books in it. You have The Summer I Turned Pretty, then you have It's Not Summer Without You, and then you have We'll Always Have Summer. You also have the To All the Boys I've Loved Before books by Jenny Han. I haven't read them, but I did watch the movies. Her books are just so fast-paced as well and so fun to read. I mean, you have the love triangle in this book with Belly and Conrad and Jeremiah. You have like also the family drama that's going on in the family, and you're like rooting for either the boys. Like, are you a team Jeremiah or you're a team Conrad? I'm definitely Conrad girly. No one can change my mind on that. Conrad, forever and always. So yeah, especially these books are so good for the summer. They have the ultimate summer vibes. So if you're looking for good books to read over the summer vacation, this is it. This is it. Okay, then the fantasy first. Fantasy for young adult. I have 2 books for this. These are both series as well. First, I have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. You already have Powerful and Reckless, and there's another book coming out this year in April, I think, if I'm not wrong. I really like this book. It's so fast paced. Powerful is a little novella in between. It's about one of the characters in this book, and then you have Reckless. Haven't read that yet, but we'll be trying to read it soon. But yeah, it is a fantasy book, and it's not that. I mean, it's very simple to understand. There are a lot of elements in this book that you may recognize from like the Hunger Games people say. I don't really see it, but I kind of get what they're coming from, you know? But very fun read. And then one of my favorite trilogies in the entire world, and that is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is such a fun fantasy magical world. It's about 2 sisters, and they want to participate in this caravel thing. Yeah, especially one sister, actually, Scarlett. And then they get to experience this, but there's a lot of going on because all of a sudden her sister is missing, and that's part of the game. Yeah, so fun. It could be a little bit hard to understand at the beginning, but once you're into it, book, it's so good. I mean, I binged these books so fast. So yeah, really, really good. Okay, then I have 2 more books, and that are like mystery books, not thriller, but mystery books. But because I haven't read like a young adult thriller book yet. So the first one is Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I only read the 3 books because I now have other books, but I haven't read them yet. I'm just going to talk about these 3, the first 3 books actually. So this is like a mystery book. So Avery all of a sudden gets mail that she is inheriting from a man called Tobias Hatter, but she doesn't know this man. She's like, why am I inheriting all of this money? But before she gets the money, she has to live in Halton House for like a year. So she's going there, but all of his nephews are there. There's a love triangle, there are games in it, and it's just so fun and fast paced. What I really love about this book is that the chapters are not that long, so it's really easy to get sucked into these books and read it in, one sitting. You could easily read these books in. So yeah, there are other books, but I don't know if they're good or not. Okay, and then the last book is a book that I've read. When I started reading, when I read it, I really liked it, so I'm still going to recommend it. And that is We Were Liars by A. Lockhart. There's also a second book, but I haven't read it yet. I don't actually know what it really is about, but yeah, this is like also a mystery. There are some things happen, so it says on the back, if anyone asks you how it ends, just like, we are Sinclairs. We live at least in the summertime on a private island of the coast of Massachusetts. Perhaps that is all you need to know, except that one of us are liars. That some of us are liars. So it's really fun, also very fast-paced book. I think it's a fun summer book as well to read because it's set in the summertime. So yeah. So that are all the books I can recommend you guys if you want to start reading. A lot of these books are pretty popular, so you've already heard about them, but that's okay. That doesn't matter. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any of these books, and if you have a recommendation people should read, if they want to start reading, leave it down below in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I see you next time. Bye.